Good evening, everybody. Ken Rodriguez with Thursday Night NAGP GT1 Racing, coming to you live from Sebring, Florida. Before we go any further, though, let me introduce my co-host, Brad Maris. Good evening, Brad.
Hey, Ken. What's shaking there, buddy? Going to be a pretty fun night of racing at Sebring, I think.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. I've just give me 1 second here. I think I have myself rebroadcasting on the website, so I was picking up some feedback. I apologize for that. Yeah, Sebring 95 and dry right now during practice, and some quick laps being put down early on in practice.
Yeah, some quick laps. I think a couple of those laps actually might be low fuel runs, so soft tires, low fuel, kind of a qualifying setup to see what kind of times they can get out of there. But I tell you, I've been watching John Luden now currently at the top of those practice time charts, and John Luden has not only put in a good time here, but good times over the course of the whole week as well. So John Luden been putting in a lot of practice for this one.
Yeah, no doubt. This is probably one of the longer courses that these GT1 cars are going to see, I believe, this season as we start winding everything down. It's 16 turns, but it's an old airfield. So, 16 turns, it's an old airfield in Sebring, bumpy as heck. And that front main straightaway being made of all bumpy concrete. So it's going to be a little bit of a challenge. The Sunset Bend, turn 17, being a bit rough on tires around here.
Yeah, so certainly most of these cars will be bottoming out at some point or other around this place, and more than a couple of them probably in some of these corners as well, which is not optimum, but sometimes there's just not much you could do there. We will get to a few news and notes on the track. If I'm not mistaken, we are waiting for one or two pilots yet to show up before we do switch that session over, but so we can get a little bit more into the track specifics here in a bit. And, oh, well, it looks like they did flip that session over, Ken.
Yeah, so we just switched over to qualifying, and it looks like these guys tonight are going to have some great track temperatures. It's dry, 70 degrees track temperature, and 59 Fahrenheit. I would assume, Brad, that these conditions are favorable for these high-powered GT1 cars, no?
Yeah, it should be just fine. Now, it should be said that the Pirelli shod cars out there will not run quite as well. The Pirellis do tend to like a little bit more heat, so the Michelins will have an advantage with the cooler track temperatures. However, the Pirelli guys just may need to actually run an extra timed lap out there on track and get those tires nice and worn in and a bit up to temperature. They should be fine. But other than that, yes, certainly, I'm sure these guys are all going to be happy to be able to run the softs. Part of one of the things I was going to mention about this track is that it's a relatively difficult track to set up for, and tire wear will kind of be an issue around this place a little bit. So very high temperatures could have led to some very hot, soft rubber compounds for these guys, but they'll be able to avoid that and put down their best laps.
That and yeah, this is probably just more of a question and information for our viewers, but these cooler temps do allow these drivers to close those radiators just a little bit more on these GT1 cars, no? Is there an advantage to that?
Well, there certainly can be. Some of the cars do gain a pretty decent bump up in aerodynamic performance by closing down that radiator. Others not so much, but in general, it's certainly not going to hurt. if you can get the extra little bit of downforce out of it, you'll certainly take it in any regards, and especially around this place where it's kind of at a premium, it has to be said.
Yeah, I have to agree. I've done some practice laps earlier today, and I got to tell you that just the track surface alone, transitioning from concrete to asphalt and bumpy to smooth in some areas has been quite a challenge, as you stated, for the car setup. Where do you find that happy medium, you know? And I found it a little bit difficult earlier today.
It's difficult in terms of aero balance and difficult in terms of mechanical balance as well. So, you know, this track does not have one straight apex to it anywhere. Every single one of these corners is either kind of a trail braking entry or a descending radius type corner or a low grip corner that's it's just constantly moving all the way through, even the turns. So it's quite annoying, actually, it has to be said, Ken, and can lead to some setup challenges. On top of that, the majority of the track is relatively not very grippy as well, so it has quite a few challenges, particularly bad grip off the line.
Yeah, I completely agree. So, early on, we're on board with John Ludden, who's out on a hot lap right now, and you had stated that John Ludden, having done a lot of practice throughout the week and setting the early pace here in practice, so now the track and ambient temperature conditions are a little bit different, but he seems to be doing okay so far. And just looking at his car, he's got to have this thing set up so low, because even on flat surfaces, I see some sparks coming out the bottom of that McLaren F1. So John Ludden going to come across the start-finish line with a first fast lap provisional pole with a 153.
Sorry, Ken, I think I was muted there, buddy.
Oh.
I was just going quickly back to John Ludden and some of the bumps. So that McLaren is difficult to keep off the bumps in the best of circumstances. So he may not be able to completely eliminate that bottoming.
Yep, absolutely. But now, so he placed 153 first hot lap, but Marty Uren bumping himself up to provisional pole with a 153 flat.
Yeah, nice time. Now, we saw those practice times somewhere in the 52s, and I postulated that those would be practice qualifying times. So they aren't quite back into those times yet, but Marty Uren is kind of a surprise. We didn't see him there on those earlier practice timesheets, did we, Ken?
No, actually we didn't. And one of the advantages that he has, here in GT1 versus GT2 is that he's not carrying any success ballast on that saline. So he's got an opportunity, if he gets it right, to be fast here tonight.
Yeah, certainly always more than capable of the speed, and we know that the saline is certainly more than capable of it as well. So that combination always is going to bode pretty well.
Well, we're currently on board with Al Merriman, who's out on a hot lap right now. He's going down the back stretch.
Yeah, coming in here to a very difficult final corner, the Sunset Bend, as you say, Ken, and it's a very difficult corner to pick up. In general, you want to stay toward the inside, but there is a bit of differing braking zones that one can take through there, kind of dependent on car setup.
Well, Al Merriman with an improvement up to P3, laying down a 153.2. Yeah, Brad, that Sunset Bend is, I was watching some of the guys in practice, and I'll tell you, if they get caught out there, that outside retaining wall comes at you mighty fast. You lose all that traction outside of the groove, and I was seeing some cars just kind of plow into the tire barrier.
Yeah, I'm not sure if they laid down some oil outside the groove on that corner for some reason, just to keep things interesting. The track officials may be wanting to have some fun with that oil out there, but very little grip, Ken.
Yeah, you're not kidding. Now we have Alex White, provisional pole right now with a 152. So there you have it, Brad. As you mentioned, we did see practice times in the 152s, and you did call it that we would start seeing those qualifying times drop. So with about 18 minutes left to go, some of these drivers certainly with more than ample time to get out there and lay down a hot one. And notable mention, Alex White placed that time with 88 pounds of success ballast. David Poel in P2 with 44 pounds. So even the guys that have weight are finding some speed out there tonight.
Yeah, and that is actually a very impressive time by Alex White. Now, we don't know exactly how low these guys can go or just how much extra grip is on track here in this qualifying session. There will be more than there was in practice, but it's a nice time by Alex White in that he is running the Pirellis on that Lamborghini Diablo. They will not have quite as much grip as the Michelins. And also, again, with that weight, like you say, so 52.5, nice time by Alex White.
Absolutely. So, assuming that we have similar weather temperature or weather conditions for the race session, one would have to assume then that the Pirellis may suffer from a little premature wear, no?
No, the Pirellis aren't gonna wear any more than the Michelins necessarily. They lack a tiny bit of overall grip relative to the Michelins, but in general, they do just fine on grip. You know, all things being equal, you're going to give up a little time lap to lap on the Pirellis. Pirellis will run a bit better, have a bit more grip in the heat, and much better grip in the wet, however.
Gotcha. And then that makes sense. So, you know, Alex White back out there. He's on an out lap. David Poel on a hot lap actually now. So these two, David Poel had just laid down a 153 flat, looking to get himself into the 152s. And Marty Uren.
Yeah, interesting. Just taking a look at the... Oh, sorry, Ken. Just taking a look quickly at the sector times here. It looks like Alex White has really done his damage there in that last sector. I got to think most of it's around Sunset Bend, so almost a half second there in just basically that one corner, Alex White over David Poel.
That's incredible. That certainly is. I just jumped over there to the sector timing and see just what you were talking about. So I guess Alex White having found the optimal line around Sunset Bend for that last timed lap. So, current running order right now as we look at timing and scoring, Alex White with provisional pole of 152.5. John Luden now dipping into the 152s. And Mike Trussler just making his way up to third with a 152.945. So he's about 2/100ths of a second off of John Luden's time. So these guys are starting to they're starting to close those gaps as the qualifying session wears on here.
Yeah, they really are. I suspect perhaps John Luden, maybe even David Poel have a bit more pace in them, maybe Marty Uren as well. So we may see a few guys creep a little further into those 152s, but so far it doesn't look like anybody has anything for Alex White. And you know what, Ken? We're almost halfway through this session.
That we are. So Marty Uren, fifth right now, driving the Pirelli Shod Saline. Al Merriman still out there on a hot lap. And P6, provisionally, Ian Joe LaCour, Aaron Parsons, Connor Swain, and Thomas Schubeck round out your top 10 right now.
Yeah, Thomas Schubeck actually in 10th, ahead of teammate Rich Roman there by a good, 0.8 of a second. So big drop off there between those two teammates at the moment. And these are important points on offer. We talked about it, and hopefully we'll recap a little bit of the Mosport race we had last week. But important team points on offer here, as that championship is still very close.
Yeah, that indeed. So I just went back to the sector timing just to take a look at Rich Roman's times there and notice that he is carrying a little bit of ballast. It's not too much, only 44 pounds, but perhaps just enough to make that much of a difference around here at Sebring.
Well, it could. Also, Rich and teammate Thomas Schubeck are on the Pirellis now. I can tell you that those Pirellis do not like to run when it's cold-ish. Now, the temperature is creeping up a bit. If it climbs a couple more degrees, they won't have a problem, but boy, really cold track temperatures can affect the Pirellis quite a bit.
Yep, as is obvious in some of the times that are being displayed here. So John Luden now moves up to within 2/100ths of a second, on Alex White's pole time. Alex White seeing that, and I think Alex White just started another hot lap to try and better that time still. not one to be too comfortable with folks getting too close to his pole time.
Yeah, I wouldn't think so, Ken. Now, it was Alex White, the winner from last week, which is why he is carrying around that 40 kilograms of ballast. And we know Alex White would certainly like to make it back-to-back wins, if at all possible. Alex White not well and truly involved in this driver championship fight here, so he's not going to care too much one way or the other if he stacks some more weight onto that Lamborghini.
Yeah, for sure. But boy, I gotta tell you, even with all, I'm impressed with the weight. Still able to lay down those hot laps, and got John Luden right behind him, trying to improve that and challenge. Now, John Luden was sort of the man to beat in early practice, and it seems that the tables have turned here just a little bit.
Well, the times are certainly tight, so I got to tell you, I'm pretty impressed by Mike Trussler. Now, Mike Trussler kind of came out of the blue here. Hadn't seen him around much in the week of practice, but he has certainly shown up here on race night with, at the very least, a good qualifying setup. Of course, everything can change during the race, but so far so good for Mike Trussler.
Yep, absolutely. So we're following Mike around that Sunset Bend corner, and again, having to get off the throttle there, losing some time. But this is an out lap for him, and he's starting a hot lap now. But yeah, certainly has a great setup for that Ferrari F40. One of the older cars that we run here in our car pack, and he was quick in practice too. David Poel being relegated back to P5 right now. Still about 11 minutes left of qualifying to go. Al Merriman holding steady at 6th for the time being, driving the Pano's GT1 car. Now, Aaron Parsons, just looking at Aaron's times, 153.602. He's currently sitting in 8th position, carrying around 110 pounds. Boy, that's got to hurt him.
Yeah, a solid 50 kilos, particularly, I should think, for the lister around this place. The power cars are going to have a bit of an advantage here. It's not a pure power track, but the acceleration will certainly, his lack of acceleration, it should be said, will certainly hurt him down some of these longish straights with that 50 kilograms on board. So, and not going to help him, but Aaron Parsons is well and truly out in front of this championship. So, not too many red flags going up for Aaron just yet.
Nope, not just yet. He is well ahead of the points championship. Ian Jolicoeur running 8th right now, and so Aaron Parsons gets bumped down to 9th. Rich Roman to 10th, and Connor Swain, here's another driver who's made some improvement during practice and here in qualifying as well, currently running in P11th. Very respectable.
Yeah, it is. And you know, Connor has actually been around the majority of the season. Now, he didn't make the first couple races, but, you know, and looking back over the complete results here, it's been 15 points put in by Connor thus far this season. And that's really not too shabby over the course of only 5 or 6 events. So, and in fact, had his best finish last week at Mosport there. I believe he came in 10th or 11th, if memory serves, Ken.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did. He was running a brilliant race last week. Hats off to Connor for his performance last week. We look forward to more of that this week. So we're just cycling through the field right now, just giving everybody a little bit of camera time as we continue our discussion about the qualifying that's going on here. It is worth mentioning that Sergio Calderon unfortunately has to serve a no-qual tonight, as does Chris Moses. So they're serving no quals tonight for issues that occurred last week, it looks like.
Yeah, that's right. And, you know, both relatively strange occurrences. Now, Sergio has run afoul from time to time, but generally, by and large, tries to keep it clean. Chris Moses is very strange for him to pick up a no qualification penalty, but it does happen to everybody occasionally, and he was certainly guilty last week at Mosport. And, you know, PMR, that could affect their chances here a little bit tonight here in this team classification for season 23. So Chris Moses will have to work his way forward.
Yeah, you know, that race right now, that points race, awfully close. T-Broke Dam Bam 151 and PMR with 147. They're just four little points back. So Chris Moses with his work cut out for him, having to start from the back of the field here at Sebring. But I've seen Chris Moses do some spectacular stuff from the back of the field in past races. So hopefully he gets an opportunity to put on a display of talent here tonight and give us a good show.
Yeah, well, you'll get a show, that's for sure, and it should be a good one.
No doubt, no doubt.
Boy, right now, Ken, I think every single one of our pilots, except for Jonathan Cuppett, is out on track trying to get a lap in. So just 7 minutes to go here. Alex White, in case you missed it, has bettered his provisional time here with a 152.3. Now, David Poel put in a 152.4. So those times for the provisional poll very tight right now, Ken. Extremely
tight. So you've got less than 1/100th of a second separating Alex White and David Poel, and then from David Poel to John Luden, you're looking at about 3/100ths of a second. So these guys making a serious run for that pole time. And Alex White just painted a big old target on the back of his Lamborghini.
So yeah, so taking a look at those sector times now, David Poel has definitely closed down that last sector time. So David Poel actually a 10th better than Alex White in the second sector, just giving up a little over a 10th there in the last. So it is becoming very close here throughout the sector times and the entire lap.
Yep, we are on board with Mr. David Poel right now, driving that big old Ford GT.
Yeah, and as you watch him drive around, I'm kind of keeping my eyeball on Marty Uren. Now, Marty Uren has not bettered his basically his first time there at a 52.9. I got to think Marty Uren has a little bit left in there too, Ken.
I wouldn't doubt it at all. Marty Uren, one heck of a driver, able to improve on his time, certainly. Will time give him enough? So David Poel around, David Poel taking it way wide in Sunset Bend. That's going to hurt his times. Don't think he's going to have enough to, I don't think he's going to have enough to even get close to this one. 7/100ths of a second, 7/10ths of a second off.
Yeah, and a mistake coming off that last corner, Ken, will hurt you on your next lap as well, because it has really reduced your speed coming across the stripe as you start that next lap.
Yeah, absolutely. Just got on board with Marty Uren, so he did not improve his time from P4, but came awfully close. Last time of 152.915, or I'm sorry, 153.420. So not as close as he wants to be. But he's going to go out there and give it one more shot.
Yeah, I think that might have been an outlap. When I looked last, I didn't see the times up for Marty Uren, so that may have been an outlap, Ken. Not 100%.
Yep. So we were talking about Jonathan Cuppett not being out there, but he's out there now. Coming up to the second sector split, takes it way wide in this corner. And again, it's going to hurt his times. Almost 7/10ths of a second off the pole pace for Jonathan Cuppett, currently sitting at P6.
Yeah, all things considered, Ken, not too bad an effort there provisionally in that sixth spot. Oh, Marty Uren took it wide. Oh, and Marty's going to park it. Marty's not going to have enough time to get another lap in.
Jonathan Cuppet with a great run coming around Sunset Bend. No improvement there.
Well, there has been improvement in here, Ken. Just now, it looks like David Poel has eclipsed Alex White's time there at the top, just by several thousandths of a second now. Alex White is still on track. David Poel's parked it. I don't think David Poel's going to get another lap in.
You know, after driving a lap like that, no doubt he was probably driving it on the edge. We're on board with Alex White, but we saw the timing switch on the broadcast as you had announced that when he came across the line to set a new provisional pole. But Alex White, about 1.2 seconds off that last lap right now, so nowhere near the pole time. But he's going to stay out there and give it one more shot, it looks like. No doubt Alex White, having put in a lot of work to get that pole, might not be too happy to have lost it, but he's going to give it another try.
Well, he's in there with a fighting chance. He is still out on track. Well, David Poel is going to have to hold his breath here, I think, for the next minute and 40 seconds or thereabouts, Ken.
Yeah, and I believe that these guys get about an extra 60 seconds once the clock runs down. So Alex White with about a minute and a half, let's just say 2.5 minutes. That's enough for one more lap. I don't think he'd get another complete lap in after that.
No, I wouldn't think so. This should be his last lap.
So he's coming up on the second sector split right now. Wow. And he is up by, what's that, 12 hundredths of a second?
Yes, very close.
Wow, fast coming out of turn 16 down the back straightaway now, and this is going to be make it or break it here, Brad.
Oh, he did get out a bit wide.
Oh, just missed it. And it looks like that might be it for Alex White. That's going to be it. David Poel pulling off a stunning upset. Now, we still do have John Luden out on track. He'll get this lap in for sure.
Haven't seen those sector splits here, so it's a mystery what he's going to come to the line at.
Yeah, no improvement for John Luden. Now, Aaron Parsons also still out with Ian Jolicoeur and Rich Roman. We're on board with Aaron Parsons. He might squeeze this one in. Not exactly sure. We'll have to see.
Yeah, I think Aaron will get this in.
Currently in P8. Oh, takes it way offline.
Yeah.
And he decides not to put the time in. Yeah, and Rich Roman is
well, it looks like that's...
Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to, Rich was not going to have enough time. It looked like that was going to be it. So, yeah, a very impressive run. David Poel barely eclipsing Alex White, and Mike Trussler did better his time there. He's going to start from the third spot, Ken.
Yeah, that's a pretty amazing run for Mike Trussler. He certainly showed his mettle here tonight during qualifying. So this is the time that most of these guys have to... Anybody that may have dropped, rejoin. I don't think that we lost anybody, so we may not see anybody else come on. Chris Moses, Sergio Calderon being at the bottom of the field, so I don't think that we lost anybody during qualifying, which would probably be a first in a while.
Well, it's a good thing nonetheless.
Yeah. So these guys will get a few minutes of warm-up practice before we start our race here at Sebring. Let's talk about that pit entry. This one here at Sebring, actually pretty straightforward. After having come off Sunset Bend, you do have some time to align yourself up with that straight in pit entrance. But earlier in practice, I saw some guys overcooking it just a little bit.
Well, probably just trying to get an idea of what they can get away with. But yeah, not too difficult. There certainly won't be too much problems for the guys behind. Others who are coming into the pit, so there's plenty of room to be able to give there. It won't be a problem as far as the pit stops go. Now the pit exit, a little bit of a different deal there. It is actually kind of a tricky re-entry point onto the track. More or less kind of spits you right onto the line where guys are coming out off the apex. So there's going to have to be some heads up driving there for some of these guys as they exit the pits.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Also, what I've noticed about that pit exit is that at times it can create a bit of a blind spot when you're focused on trying to get out on the track. So certainly a little dangerous there.
Yeah, a little dangerous for not only the drivers exiting pit lane, but of course that is a 100% committed corner. You turn in, Ken, and you go to a particular spot and you nail the throttle before you have any idea of where you're actually going to try to get speed coming off. And so you're kind of at the maximum of grip and acceleration. There's very little room to be able to brake or make course corrections, as it were, if somebody happens to pop out in front of you coming off of their pit stop.
Certainly a pucker moment, if you will. So we'll be watching that tonight when the pit rotations come around. So these guys got 90 minutes of racing. I don't remember if I got to see what the maximum laps are going to be here. So I would presume that if we end up with dry conditions, we'll probably end on laps versus the time, unless some type of a weird weather change happens as we switch over to the warm-up session now.
Yeah, so like most sport, there's going to be some interesting strategy options for some of these drivers. Now, some of the mid-engine cars are going to have the opportunity to actually run soft front tires, and actually some of them may even have to, as they may not come up to temperature. They may need to run the soft compound just to get enough temperature in those tires. And the track is not particularly good with tire wear, so especially if you do run those softs, of course you're going to accumulate a lot of tire wear. They're going to need to come in and switch those out. Now, we might see some pretty excessive wear rates here before these guys come in for those pit stops. And I tell you, this track is, you mentioned it, very difficult to get the balance right on the car, but boy, you add a lot of tire wear into that toward the end of a stint, and that balance can really become an issue.
Right, and that poses the problem for these drivers, especially these guys that run up front. They're in a points battle right now. They pretty much have to drive on the edge the entire time, right? Protecting their position, trying to gain valuable points. We've got Sebring, and then we've got Sears Point left in the season. So essentially just really 2 races left to go, and these guys are going to be pushing hard, no doubt, for those valuable points. Probably create some challenges here for some of them.
Well, this is going to be a fascinating race in terms of the team championship. Al Miramon, Aaron Parsons, Ian Jolicoeur, all members of teams that are involved in this fight, with teammates that are buried a bit farther back in the field. Who's gonna pop up through the standings? Who's gonna put in a good show around here tonight? Who's gonna suffer the agony of defeat? This is gonna bear some close attention over the course of this race, and for our viewers who are unaware, something I get really excited about is that team championship, particularly when it is close like this, Ken.
Yeah, it certainly is something to get excited about because it, just like any other competition, real world or virtual, right? It provides for some nail biting moments at times. This is no different here at NAGP. These guys are kind of fighting for fame and power and glory, if you will.
Yeah, and hey, I mean, there is a prize for these general classifications as well. We should mention the competition index as well. Now, I believe that Aaron Parsons actually is quite a bit out in front in that classification as well. So the competition index is a prize given to the driver who completes the most laps over the course of an entire season.
That's right. And if the one who does complete the most laps over the course of an entire season ends up, I believe, either being team or driver champion, correct me if I'm wrong, Brad, but that prize then gets handed down to the next available person that did not win a team or driver championship, correct?
Yeah, that's right, Ken.
Right. So it does not, that's one prize, and it is a physical prize that you do win. Does not necessarily always go to the person who ends up in the team or the driver championship. So certainly opportunity for some other folks to win a piece of hardware.
Yeah, and you know, now that I think about it a little bit more, that team classification becomes even a bit more murky with none of those championship contenders really starting better than seventh place. Al Marimon of our championship contenders is in the best position to start the race here in seventh. So a lot of drivers up there who are not actually directly involved in the fight for this season 23 championship up there and with good speed as well. So that could halt the forward advance of some of these guys who really do want to earn those points.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's going to be interesting to see. Again, you know, we have Sebring, we have Sears Point coming up, and then, you know, that 3-hour finale at Sears Point is going to be something pretty spectacular, if you ask me. It's a challenging track, and boy, 3 hours of that.
Oh, yeah, those guys are going to come away from that event knowing that they had competed for 3 hours. I tell you that, kid. It's going to be a grind, but that's part of the fun. Boy, it is difficult. I know it's difficult on the broadcasters, of course, to be able to manage that period of time. But you know what? That's part of the racing. So it's kind of a different a task on track, a different challenge. You know, you have the driving and you want to be fast and you want to gain the positions, but you also have to do it over the course of 3 hours. And so staying alert and focused and kind of contained, driving within yourself over that 3 hours is part of the extra challenge. And I really do like those 3 hour events. The cream rises to the top, Ken.
Yeah, no doubt, Brad, no doubt, because that certainly tests the mettle of any driver, real or virtual. But you know, we're dealing in the virtual world, and it tests the mettle of our drivers here at NAGP because make no mistake, you may be sitting at home in front of your computer screen, but that adrenaline is pumping just the same, if not even more so at times. And you'll just sit there, your palms are sweaty, you're sweaty, and you're just wishing that this thing just hurries up and ends. So warm-up has finished, has come to a close. Our next session now will be switching over to the race, and we're doing that now. So we're going to go ahead and run down your running order, starting on pole, David Poel, P2, Alex White, and in third, Mike Trussler. John Luden will start fourth, and Marty Uren will start in fifth. Sorry, Brad, are you there? I don't hear you.
Jonathan Cuppett, nice time, will start 6th. Al Miramon for PMR Racing will start 7th. Aaron, sorry, Ken, I am here. My voice activation might have clipped off there. So a nice run for Jonathan Cuppett to 6th. Al Miramon there for PMR in 7th. Aaron Parsons in 8th. Ian Jolicoeur in 9th. Bjorn Hemmen, nice time for a top 10.
And in 11th, Rich Roman, Connor Swain in 12th, Thomas Schubeck in 13th, John Wath in 14th, and John Houston will start 15th.
Gup Douglas will take 16th, Mike Greetrex in 17th, Greg Myers in 18th, Dan Wilkerson in 19th, John McIntyre 20th.
Jared Keene, joining us late, will start in 21st, Sergio Calderon in 22nd, and Chris Moses will start 23rd, and that is your running field. So, just looking out on track, boy, Brad, them skies are dark. It's 98 and dry with an 89 ambient temperature, but it is dark out there.
Yeah, well, you know, the conditions are saying that it's raining. Don't think it's raining quite yet, but the forecast certainly calls for it, Ken. Now, I can tell you that not many of these drivers have run too many rain laps, and that can change things dramatically, as you know, Ken.
Yep, great equalizer here at NAGP, and boy, I got to tell you that these boys are stacked close together as the lights come on, and when they go green, they will be off, and there they go. David Poel with the advantage on the inside line. Alex White gonna try and take the outside line from David Poel. Won't get it done. Just cycling through the field here to see if everybody got away cleanly. And it looks like it's fairly clean, Brad.
Yeah, looking pretty good. Now, it was Chris Moses that caught about half the field sleeping here, has quickly found his way up to 50.
Well, we found some problems here. Wow. Up in the front, we had some coming together of some cars, and I believe that Al Merriman was one of them.
I tell you, it was also Ian Jolicoeur getting caught up in that as well. So two pieces of our championship puzzle here have suddenly fallen back. It is John Wathen now for Aim High Racing, moving up into the fifth, or not Aim High Racing, excuse me, different team. John Wathen for his team, moving up into fifth place suddenly.
Yep, and Aaron Parsons, beneficiary of one of those, he's up in fourth, so T-Broke Dan Bam with an advantage here if he can just maintain his position, and John Luden must have tried to avoid some of that because he's been relegated down to seventh. Mike Truss.
Boy, that incident.
So go ahead.
I'm sorry, Ken. That incident took place somewhere toward the front, so it is Rich Roman now up into third. And actually makes a mistake at Sunset Bend, so Aaron Parsons is going to have a look at Rich Roman now. But Rich Roman has started this race back in like 10th or something, Ken.
Yeah, he got the advantage of actually getting around unscathed. So Rich Roman with a huge benefit, getting around some.
Now it's Alex White. Alex White. So there was a problem right at the sharp end of this field. Alex White has slipped back into 19th, Ken.
Yeah, he did get caught up in that, and like I said, Al Merriman was one of them as well. So just cycling through the field, Al Merriman gets pushed back to 17th. Now, I saw his car go sideways at turn 7. That's the hairpin turn. And I believe Gup Douglas as well, Alex White. These guys all got caught up in that whole schmozzle up front.
You may have been trying to describe it as I was just kind of wondering what the heck was going on. You should have told me to shut up and just listen to you. I was further back in the field, Ken, trying to get a sense of what was going on back there, and all of a sudden I see all these shakeups. So those are major happenings, and fast guys looking to be coming through this field now, Ken.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I agree. And I was trying to make heads or tails of it because it happened so quickly at turn 7, like I said, and cycling through the field, I was trying to get back to the cars that were involved, and it was a little difficult for me to get back there. By that time, they had sorted themselves out and got back on track.
You know, it's difficult to say. You may have had a good advantage point of it. I'm kind of wondering if Alex White didn't possibly lock up, or if one of those guys didn't have some type of lockup or warp problem up there. I'm not sure. Whoa, Bjorn Hemmen almost throws it off track.
John Luden putting the moves on John Wathen for P5 as they came around Sunset Bend. The advantage went to Luden as he took the inside line away from Wathen. Wathen going to have a look inside again and see if he can get that position back, but it's not going to get it done.
Yeah, and right behind him is a serious battle shaping up now over 7th place.
Yep, it looks like, what's that, a four-way battle for P7. Chris Moses all over the tail of John Houston, and right behind them, Mike Trussler, and right behind them, Mike Graytrix, up to 10th. Good on Mike.
Boy, I tell you, we are going to see some gaps open up over the course of this event. It's a very difficult track. I'll mention a bit more on that in a second, but right now they are just fighting tooth and nail out there, Ken. Serious battles going on.
Yep, and we're only in lap 2. All right, you got Jonathan Cuppett in P12 chasing down Connor Swain in P11. These guys are nose to tail. John McIntyre, Bjorn Heyman for P13. These guys are going at it tooth and nail right now. John McIntyre just seems to have latched on a tow rope to the back of... Sorry, go ahead.
Looks like Al Miramon has gone off track and stuffed it into the Armco. So back-to-back weeks, Al Miramon is struggling here early.
Yep, and he rejoins in P22 right behind Sergio Calderon. And even in the back of the field, Dan Wilkerson, Alex White, Ian Jolicoeur, Gub Douglas, Gregory Myers, these guys are in a tight-knit battle as well. And just ahead of them, John McIntyre getting around Bjorn Hemmen.
Well, let me tell you something, Ken. This is a very difficult track. Now, there are going to be guys making mistakes on this track. It's really important if you find yourself in arrears just to put your head down and hang in there, because anything can happen out here tonight with this very difficult track.
Yeah, you're not kidding. So, this battle up front, Brad, for P3 still rages on. Aaron Parsons following around John Luden, who's following around Rich Roman. 3 very fast drivers trying to vie for that coveted third podium spot right now.
Yeah, and I suspect John Luden of the 3 will have the best pace. I'm kind of surprised actually that Aaron Parsons is hanging as close as he is right now to John Luden. John Luden actually has gone through for that pass. We saw that, but both are gaining a bit of time on Rich Roman. Now I would suspect that Rich would have a bit of pace on Aaron, but so far not so much.
Yeah, these guys are battling it out quite heavily for that position. And Luden looking on the inside of Roman as they come around turn 16, but Roman not giving an inch to Luden. We're actually on the chase cam with Aaron Parsons looking ahead of that battle. There goes Luden looking on the inside of Rich Roman. Side by side into turn 1. Who's going to concede? Doesn't look like either one of them conceding. Oh, Luden with an outside pass on Rich Roman going into turn 1.
Yeah, nice pass there. Now, it's not all said and done for Rich Roman. These setups, I tell you, these guys are already kind of shimmying all over the place. And once these tires wear, I think some of these drivers are going to be in real trouble. And I think there's going to be some gaps that are going to come back to the guys that don't quite have that pace at the moment, but have more consistency of pace deeper into this stint.
Yeah, no doubt. And boy, like you said, it isn't over for Rich Roman. So Aaron Parsons, having gained a bit of an advantage after Luden put the pass on Roman, now Aaron Parsons has latched on to Roman's rear bumper.
Indeed he has, and while you watch that, Ken, I can give you an update. Marty Uren, just a second or so off of David Poel, has made a mistake in the hairpin, so Marty Uren has slipped back, and John Luden will close up that gap.
Yep, great battle for P4 right now. Rich Roman, Aaron Parsons, and Rich Roman now is tightening up his lines just a little bit to give him a bit of an edge.
Yeah, and you don't have to feel the need to switch off that, but Chris Moses, Mike Trussler, and John Houston all fighting tooth and nail as well now for that 7th spot.
Seven-tenths of a second separating Parsons and Roman. We'll move back just a little bit for a couple seconds here, folks, as we pick up this other battle right now. Looks like a three-way battle for P7. So Chris Moses currently running P7. Mike Trussler right behind him, and John Houston chasing them both down. Not an easy...
Looks like Gregory Myers has, sorry Ken, come to an unfortunate end here. He has retired back to the garage after a massive wreck and flip.
Oh, that's tough luck. Great three-way battle ensuing right now for P7 between Moses and Trussler and John Houston, and I got to tell you that Trussler seems to have a little bit, ever so slight pace on Chris Moses. He keeps trying to look inside and outside, and I think that's actually doing more damage to him because he's as Moses drives the line and Trussler tries to look for a way around him, he's losing time on Moses. I think he just needs to tuck up underneath Moses, let Moses just kind of pull him around the track and figure out an opportune time for a pass.
Yeah, Mike Trussler's best opportunity is going to be coming off the second to last corner or Sunset Bend if he can get that F40.
Oh, Houston with a bit of a dive, not necessarily a dive bomb because Trussler took it wide, but Houston having taken advantage but lost the advantage as he went wide towards the end of Sunset Bend.
Yeah, I think John Houston had to take some evasive action there, actually. That was a pretty nice save there for John Houston and really both those guys to make it through.
So Houston getting the inside pass on Trussler now. This is giving Chris Moses an opportunity to kind of just walk away from this battle momentarily. Mike Trussler taking a dip to the inside to see where the braking zone is going to be at.
I tell you, a guy that I got to be impressed with here early, Ken, is Mike Greetrex. Mike Greetrex running solidly in the top 10 here, has survived all the carnage that has ensued here toward the front of this field and has just found a nice pace for himself there, running inside the top 10. So, nice run, Mike Greetrex.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, and Mike Greetrex certainly someone who has the ability to lay down some pretty smoking laps. You know, when he's on, he's on. And, you know, we typically see him running within the top 20, but great run for Greetrex here tonight, currently in the top 10.
Boy, for those mid-engine cars, it's going to be all about conserving those rear tires, making sure you stay off the curbs, not upsetting the diffuser downforce on the car. and just making sure that you don't overheat those tires and lose too much grip, because you're going to need it, particularly toward the end of the stint. I've talked about it once or twice, I know, but it is absolutely critical that they watch that, particularly now that the track temperature has gone up to 101 degrees Fahrenheit.
And that quite quickly. Boy, I'm just on board with Trussler, who is still in that hot battle with John Huston, and just noticed that Trussler's got a bit of damage to the front of that Ferrari.
Yeah, the F40, not necessarily the best overall aerodynamic downforce, so that front end damage is not gonna help him. And I think that we really saw that affect him going through Sunset Bend when he kind of lost control there. He had some lack of aero downforce by Chris Moses in front, and then that damage on top of that is making it very difficult for him at the moment.
Yes, sirree. So we've
Boy.
Go ahead.
Nope, go ahead, Ken.
I know, I was just going to mention that we've joined the battle up front for P4 with Rich Roman and Aaron Parsons now.
Yeah, that is a good battle, Ken. We should also not be remiss to mention the battle over 15th at the moment. So it's Gup Douglas, Ian Jolicoeur, and John McIntyre all fighting with Thomas Schubeck just in front as well. So Ian Jolicoeur, one of our points contenders here in that team classification, looking to pick up some ground that he lost on the start.
Yeah, absolutely. So we joined that battle now, and on board with Ian Jolicoeur, actually, as he's hunting down Mr. Gup Douglas.
Obviously a very difficult place to pass around here. A lot of your passing opportunities are going to come from mistakes from the guy in front of you. So again, very important to keep it as consistent as you possibly can relative to the guys around you.
Yeah, no doubt. And boy, I got to tell you, we've seen some spectacular passes already here early in the race coming around Sunset Bend. So some drivers, I don't know if it's a loss of focus or an upset in the balance of the car as they come around that turn. Certainly one of the more challenging turns here at Sebring.
Boy, it sure is, especially if you're side by side with somebody, obviously, or even if you're behind them and lose that aerodynamic downforce on the nose. So interesting, Ken. I'm kind of going through timing and scoring here, and I am seeing John Luden starting to gain some time on Marty Uren now. So very consistently kind of reeling Mr. Marty Uren in for that second spot. That is going to be a battle here in the next couple laps, I think.
Yep, and we're going to join up with you in a couple of seconds, Brad. I was just looking at this ensuing battle here for P10. Mike Graytrix, having had a great run, is now coming under immense pressure by Jonathan Cuppett driving the Corvette now for that top 10 spot. P10. Oh, and Jonathan Cuppett loses it. Let's say goodbye to that battle.
Oh!
Whoa! Evasive action. And looks like Schubeck might get an advantage here as well. Ooh, this could get hairy. Yep.
You know, that Aston Martin should have good speed down the straight.
Yeah, and so now we have a draft train coming into Sunset Bend. As some of these guys take it way wide, I guess to gain the advantage coming out of that corner. Ian Jolicoeur also putting Jonathan Cuppett down in position. And Jolicoeur now chasing Gup Douglas. Going to look to pass him on the outside. Or an over-under. Wow.
Well, we know Jonathan Cuppett certainly has the speed around this place, qualifying in that great sixth position. But I think his tires have gone off just a little bit, and pushing so hard after Mike Greetrex, I think might have put a little bit of heat into those front tires. Jonathan Cuppett struggling for that front grip at the moment.
Yeah, so a great battle going on right now. Closest of the four is Ian Jolicoeur and Gup Douglas. Gup Douglas taking it a little wide and getting right back into the race groove to defend his position.
Boy, that's been some great action. I think the big beneficiary of that action so far is Thomas Schubeck. So Thomas Schubeck fell out of the points there momentarily, but has fought his way back up to that 13th position. So Thomas Schubeck is making all the right noises here for his team early in this race, coming back.
Panzerfaust Racing, yes sirree.
Wow. Now, I just came across something else here, Ken. So it is John Wathen in the Michelin shod Aston Martin gaining time on the Pirelli shod Aston Martin of Rich Roman, more or less by leaps and bounds. So John Wathen looking very racy here and looking to take over that 5th spot. Meanwhile, that battle for 2nd is heating up as well. Marty Uren and John Luden.
Yeah, we're going to go ahead and move up to that battle right now. We're going to jump on board with Mr. Luden. See how this starts to take shape because, well, David Poel is just kind of out there running by himself right now. And John Luden certainly having had shown pace here in early practice and in qualifying as well. Now we know that the race is different. Tires wear faster, more fuel consumption. Oh, a bit of a slide by John Luden. So he's not going to quite have that qualifying and practice pace, but John Luden certainly fast enough to make his way up the running order here.
Boy, I had a quick update for you, Ken. I don't know what happened, but looking again through time and then scoring, Chris Moses has slipped back into the 9th position behind John Houston and Mike Trussler. So that is yet another fight going on for 7th. So still, there's barely a car out there not involved in a direct fight for position at the moment.
No, I think the only one might be David Poel, who's running out front.
Yeah.
But John Luden getting the advantage on Uren. It looks like Uren's rear tires, Brad, might be starting to get a little bit slick out there because he is starting to slide the tail end of that saline around these corners.
Yeah, boy, and I tell you what, that McLaren right behind him will be suffering the same type of issues. Now, to what degree, it's hard to say, but both mid-engine cars, and whoa, very loose there for Marty Uren. So good observation, Ken.
Yep, 11 laps into this race right now, so still plenty of racing to go. We have scheduled for 43 laps here. Oh, and Uren with a huge slide. Luden having to check up a little bit there.
Yeah, this is going to be a tense affair coming into Sunset Bend here.
Yeah, we got to jump onto the chase cam for this to get that panoramic view because Luden cuts it tight. And boy, oh boy, that saline is just fishtailing every opportunity it gets.
Yeah, John did a good job handling the aero push that time by the saline.
Oh, John Luden touching the inside wall and losing traction. Oh, that's a heartbreaker.
Boy, I just can't continue to stress enough the tire management situation, particularly for these mid-engine cars. Now, it is still John Wathan right behind these guys, looking for 5th place over Rich Roman.
Yep, we are joining that battle right now. We temporarily looked at your race leader. He's comfortably out in the lead. David Poel, another dominating performance. Almost 10-second lead over Marty Uren in second.
Well, and he's suffering some tire issues too, I can guarantee you. But the nice thing for David Poel is that he is out front and able to manage his own pace. You know, not being under stress, not having to drive the car harder than he would like. So David Poel in a great position at the moment and turning some very solid times.
So we're on board with John Wathan, who's battling it out right now with Rich Roman for the 5th spot. And, you know, just looking at John Wathan's driving style, doesn't look like he's trying to be too aggressive here. I think he may be content with just allowing Roman to just pull him around the track and perhaps wait for an opportune time.
Ken, that's exactly what he's doing, and that's exactly what he did last week. He had Connor Swain in front of him with, well, John obviously had better pace for half the race, and John Wathan is coming up with the goods again here at Sebring, just like he did at Mosport last week.
Yeah, good on Wathan. Certainly showing some improved speed here.
I can't help myself, Ken. I gotta mention the battle going on just behind as well. So it is Houston, Trussler, and Moses all going at it for that 7th spot too.
Yep, I see that. John Houston hanging on by a thread right now as Mike Trussler, again, looking inside and outside, but I think running the line would probably be beneficial right now, and just wait for that opportune time because, man, you got Chris Moses right behind you, and Chris Moses will certainly try and capitalize on any opportunity that you give him. Oh, Houston having to get hard on the brakes. Trussler almost got a pass on him. Now, I heard a nasty rumor that Chris Moses drives with no force feedback.
Chris Moses uses, what is that, a CRT wheel, I believe, no force feedback, and hey, that's just the way Chris Moses likes it.
Yeah, well, I gotta tell you, I couldn't imagine what driving without force feedback would be like, but hey, if it works for you, it works for you. It does not diminish the immersion factor, if you will.
No, not at all. And once you get used to the visual clues and auditory clues that you have coming from the simulation, well, then it's not too big a problem. For Chris Moses to go to force feedback at this point, I think would be very difficult, as much as it would be for you and me not to use it, Ken.
Yes, sirree. So these three coming around Sunset Bend, looks like the order is going to stay the same, at least for the immediate future right now. We're on board with Chris Moses, looking ahead at Mike Trussler and John Houston battling it out. John Houston preferring the inside line, and there goes Moses starting to put a move on these guys. Getting by Trussler for that 8th spot.
Yeah, Chris Moses suddenly looking to be back on pace now. He did have some type of problem, slipped back, we didn't catch it. Seemed a bit off the pace, but back on it now. And I suppose, Ken, now that I think about it, if any car out there is going to make good use of its tires, it is this Panos Esperante. It will, the tires on it will hold up pretty darn well relative to the rest of the field.
Yeah, advantage Moses. So we're just going to take a quick look at timing and scoring as we stay with Moses for the time being. Oh, Thomas Schubeck with a DNF.
I just saw that, Ken. Now, Thomas Schubeck had made a mistake from the 13th spot and slipped back to 16th, involved in a terrific fight with Ian Jolicoeur, Al Miramon, and Alex White, but suddenly has taken a DNF. So, bad news there for Panzerfaust Racing, Ken.
Oh, that is just such a shame. Sorry, Tom. Man, we're sorry, Shubes. So it seems that the closest battle out on field right now is Houston, Moses, and Trussler right now.
Yeah, just in case you wanted to know, there is a pretty good battle for 11th. Hemmen, Douglas, and Cuppet all nose to tail as well. Oh, as Gupp was looking to make a move on Bjorn there.
Yeah, it looks like he had to check up. I didn't catch the whole thing, so when I came in, it looks like Gupp had just finished checking up just a little bit.
Boy, and you can see just the wide variety of lines these guys are using to get around this track. All equally successful, but varying.
Yeah, very much so. And this battle here between these three guys was has come out of the earlier battle that Mike Greatrix was in for the 10th spot, and still holding on to that 10th spot as Gupp Douglas spins it. Oh, and Bjorn Heyman takes it off as well. And Connor Swain is just going to kind of sail on by and take over the 12th spot. So some folks moving up a couple of positions here. Gupp Douglas gets relegated back to 17th. And it looks like he may have some pretty bad damage. He seems to be sliding off the track right now, or he's got zero front grip. So now Alex White and Ian Jolicoeur. Alex White going to put the inside moves on Jolicoeur for that 14th spot.
I have to say it's a rare day when Ian Jolicoeur is this far back in the pack now. I don't think Ian had the opportunity to get a lot of practice in. He was not looking very good in that practice session. Qualifying wasn't much better, and here he finds himself buried back in the field. So very fast driver, looking to move up still.
Yep, and he started to lose some of that rear end grip on that Aston Martin coming around the Sunset Bend, so can't help but think that he may be suffering from a little bit of tire degradation over there on that Aston, as Al Merriman now trying to looking to put Ian Jolicoeur another position down yet.
Yeah, and those guys have been around each other here for quite a bit of this race once Al had his problem into the Armco. So this will be an interesting battle here, not only on track, but as we approach these pit stops, and who may be able to gain advantage on the other coming in and getting out of that pit stop rotation.
Yep, absolutely. And I would imagine, Brad, that this is the popular strategy here is a one-stop strategy.
Yeah, certainly, Ken. All of these GT1 cars will be able to make it just on one stop. They might like to be able to make it several stops, I think, to switch out the rubber, but it certainly costs you way too much time to do that at this point.
Yeah. So we're going to move a little bit ahead because Alex White, all over the tail of Bjorn Heyman. Alex White having to check up just a little bit as Bjorn Heyman not quite as quick through turn 16, getting onto the back straight. And I believe that Alex White might be looking to make a move here as he's getting all that great pull going down the back stretch into Sunset Bend. And boy, it looks like Alex White pulling the old switcherooski on Bjorn Heyman trying to... Oh! It's a big slide by Alex White.
Yeah, again, that would be the oil the track marshals spread out there on the outside of that corner, Ken.
Yep, and he's going to lose 2 positions. Al Merriman now on the inside, gaining an advantage over Alex White.
Yeah, and I tell you, it was kind of surprising to me to see Alex White languishing back in the field after whatever happened to him there at the start of the race. But obviously that Lamborghini suffering some terrible tire degradation issues at the moment.
No doubt it is, because, boy, like you said about Joe LaCour, rare is the day that you see Alex White running this far back in the pack. So the car performance has got to be suffering at this point.
Well, I gotta mention the battle starting to brew up here toward the front. Rich Roman, John Wathan still there on his bumper, but Mike Trussler, Chris Moses has also joined that fight, so it is now a 5-way fight over the 5th position.
Boy, incredible. Yeah, it certainly is, and these guys are starting to bunch up a little bit there. Just going to quickly take a look at what lap we're running here. Look, we're on lap 17 out of a scheduled 43. So I'm thinking that perhaps some of these cars might be looking to come in around lap 19 or 20. Oh, Wathan takes it way wide. Or is that Joe LaCour? I think that's... Yep, it was Wathan. They're 3 wide coming down that front straight. Man, oh man, this is just too scary, the way these guys are running.
Let me tell you something, Ken. We mentioned at Mosport with the heat and tire degradation. These guys are absolutely on the limit, trying to make that pass on some very suspect tires at this point.
Yep, and Mike Trussler, having taken it wide and off into the grass, allows Chris Moses to slip by for P8 right now. And, man, these guys are just nose to tail. Chris Moses taking it wide now and doing a little lawn mowing himself. And just gives the gift right back to Mike Trussler. And Chris Moses falling off the pace just a little bit there. But John Wathan, Rich Roman, John Houston, these guys are very, very close for that P6, I believe. Oh, yeah. John Wathan with a bit of a slide.
Yeah, actually made a nice save there. He did have to take some evasive action for Rich Roman in front of him. Oh, it looks like Alex White has gone out with suspension damage, Ken.
Ah, tough break for Alex White.
You know, I've mentioned it before, but this GT1 class, I know Alex White doesn't always get a lot of prep time for these GT1 races, but it is a different bit of a beast, these GT1 cars, and the weight is a bit more substantial than... Oh! Sorry, Ken. It looked like that was Al Merriman getting into the back of Bjorn Heyman. Bjorn Heyman actually on the brakes early, I think, and Al not too many places to go. Got into the back of Bjorn, but Al did give the position back. So, it's Chris Moses into the pits here, Ken.
Earlier than I had expected. Mike Trussler all over John Wathan's bumper right now. He tried to put a pass on him. It didn't quite make it stick, but he's going to have another opportunity here come this lap. And just ahead of them, Rich Roman hunting down John Houston. Aaron Parsons running comfortably out there by himself in P4 right now, and John Luden in 3rd, Marty Uren in 2nd. So your top 4 seem to be very well spaced out. I don't think there's a car...
You know,
sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Ken.
I was just about to say, Brad, I don't think that there's a car still running on this track that hasn't pitted, that's not suffering from these tires going away on them.
Yeah, I've mentioned it again. It is such a difficult track to run consistently, and throw into that the tire wear and the heat. It looks like it's very difficult to manage. Now, I was looking through timing and scoring, and one guy who is managing it amazingly is David Poel. David Poel has yet to turn a lap outside of the 154s, including his first timed lap after the start of the race. Every single lap in the 54s. It's actually incredible. I wouldn't have expected anybody to be able to do that.
Yeah, boy, you're not kidding.
Yeah. I assumed you looked at his lap times. I was gonna ask you to do so if you hadn't, because it's freaking incredible.
Yeah, I brought it up for our viewers to see, and the epitome of consistency coming from David Poel today. And again, he's if I'm not mistaken, he's carrying around a little bit of weight as well, so he's got something figured out on that car.
Well, and here's the thing, Ken. I suspect the guy could have pushed for more speed, and I think he understands exactly what he needs to do for this track, which is to be extremely careful and just to, this is a track you definitely have to drive at 9 or even 8/10 of the limit here. David Poel's doing that, and boy, I am so impressed with those times.
Yeah, as am I. And, it just goes to show, looking at his times, it's something that you harp on all the time, Brad, as the driving instructor here at NAGP, is race consistency.
I'm telling you right now, Ken, I would not have been able to do that. There's no way I would have been able to run lap times that consistent this deep into this race. No way.
And David Poel, we don't want to curse him, but he just ran his first 155 after having gone wide in Sunset Bend. So perhaps David Poel might be looking to come in and get some fresh shoes on that big Ford GT.
Well, he's not the only one. So Marty Uren just now in. Aaron Parsons right behind him. Ian Jolicoeur has just come out of the pits along with Connor Swain. So the pit stops have begun in earnest.
Yes, they have. So on board with John Houston in P5, he's going to stay out. Rich Roman's going to duck into the pits, however, and it looks like, John Wathen nearly getting into the wall, but 3 of them coming into the pits. Rich Roman, John Wathen, and Mike Trussler all together.
Yeah, so where are these battles going to be rejoined at, Ken? Who's going to make the good stop and who's going to make a mistake in there? We'll just have to wait and see.
Yeah, you know what? At this point right now, it's anyone's guess, but I guess the race right now for some of these folks is going to be the race off of pit road. So
our track temperature has remained consistent here at 101 degrees for the second part of that whole stint.
Yep, this is
no need to. Sorry, Ken. No need to do anything drastic on a different tire compound or anything like that.
Yeah, I would imagine not. Now, Al Merriman is currently in 8th, chasing down Bjorn Heyman. So some of these guys have had the opportunity to move up here temporarily as they cycle through pits. And, boy, I got to tell you, Al Merriman's got some real heavy damage to the front of that panos and to both sides. Not sure if he's going to look to get that fixed when he comes in, but certainly couldn't help his chances if he did.
Yeah, so long as you don't have over some 20 seconds of aero damage, you can get that fixed whilst getting the new set of shoes put on. So it doesn't cost you any time on those pits as long as you're within a certain damage range.
Yeah, that's right. I believe that limit might be 10 seconds of aero damage, as you stated, Brad. Anything above that starts to really hurt your pit times. So Al Merriman takes away P7 from Bjorn Heyman. Bjorn Heyman falling a little ways back right now, but Al might be coming into the pits this time around.
Yeah, our leader, David Poel, has jumped into the pits along with John Luden and John Houston. So Mike Greetrex, Gup Douglas, and as you say, Al Merriman, they're all in, and I think this is going to complete our pit stop rotation, Ken.
Yes, sirree. So Al Merriman in, Houston's in. And it looks like Merriman did go for that damage repair. We still have one more to go. Let's see here. Jonathan Cuppett, who is not pitted yet, will get to lead this lap.
Well, I can tell you, here early as we watch those stops cycle through, it was Rich Roman getting back out ahead of John Wathen, so that battle is going to remain the same, though John Wathen is looking to make a move here going into turn 1 for what is now 7th place.
I just want to take a quick look at timing and scoring. I'm looking at John Luden in 4th, and John Luden did get out in front of Aaron Parsons also, so that's another switch up that happened as the race off of pit road was happening. So now Aaron Parsons gonna have to chase down John Luden to try and get that position back.
It looks like Jonathan Cuppett has come in. Now I'm looking at his lap times here, and I'm seeing a couple no-timed laps, which are indicative most likely of having some cut tracks out there. So Jonathan Cuppett has two. If he gets one more, he's going to have to serve a stop-and-go penalty. He'll have to be careful the rest of the way.
Yeah, and you know, I can't help but think that that may be occurring at the bends right before turn 16, where it's real easy to pick up a cut. Another place where it's easy to pick up a cut is actually coming around Sunset Bend. If you hug the wall too tight, this track will give you a cut.
Yeah, that's right, Ken. Also on exit, if you stay out too wide on exit, it will give you a cut track as well.
That's right. So, Cup, it looks like he's got two to his credit right now. Don't want to get that third one.
Yeah, and as you watch that, I can tell you Ian Jolicoeur is making a move on Chris Moses at this moment for the 10th spot. So Ian Jolicoeur has made up some nice ground through the pit stops and picks up another quick position here off of Chris Moses coming around the last corner.
Yeah, Chris Moses has got huge damage to the front of that Panos.
Oh, that's not good. So pushing hard after stops, and it looks like Chris Moses has gotten back around somehow.
Yep, we're watching that battle right now from the chase cam, looking back at Chris Moses' Panos, and we did get to see him put that move on Ian Jolicoeur.
Well, boy, I kind of speculated on who was going to step up and really try to do some damage in this championship. So far it is, as we watch that battle continue to unfold here, so far it is Aaron Parsons. Aaron Parsons is running up there in 4th for that T-Brock Dam Bam team and doing the best job of those teams at the moment.
Yeah, well, Aaron certainly with a good understanding of what it means for his team to stay in the chase, to stay in the lead, actually. I don't think that the current running positions of PMR are going to threaten the team championship too much right now. Al Merriman is currently running in 13th and Chris Moses in 9th. So Aaron Parsons with the advantage here running in 4th in terms of points, but his teammate Sergio Calderon, I believe, is actually running outside the points. So Aaron's certainly the one carrying the team right now.
Yeah, so Aaron Parsons in that fourth place would take home 16 points if the race were to finish as it is now. And I believe you're right. That PMR, Chris Moses, and Al Merrimon would not be able to combine for that 14 points. They would lose a little bit of ground.
Yeah. So just cycling through the field here. Closest battle, it looks like, out on the track is still between Wathen and Roman, the two Aston Martins. Boy,
yeah, we did gain some clarity after those pit stops.
Yeah, we certainly did. Just looking at some of the times here, looking at Rich Roman, he just had his quickest lap, the lap before, or 2 laps ago, I should say, with a 1:55.483, and John Wathen just had his fastest lap, just the last lap, with a 1:55.097. So slight advantage going to John Wathen, but he's still just kind of chasing Roman around the track.
Yeah, and you know what? All these guys are likely to pick up a little bit of speed now that they've had a chance to work into this race and get refocused on the lines, come into those pit stops, kind of have a mental image of how to go about attacking this course now with that fresh rubber. So they will start to improve their times. However, you know, the track temperature just has finally gone up another degree, so perhaps if the track were to heat up a little bit, that could give them more issues on tire degradation.
Yes, sirree. On board, Ian Jolicoeur in P10, looking ahead at the back of Chris Moses' car. So, even with all that damage on Chris's car, it doesn't look like it's done too much damage. He seems to be able to hold his position.
Yeah, I was thinking that too, Ken. So far, so good. Now, I should keep you updated here. Al Merrimon looks like he is making the pass on Connor Swain coming through the 4th corner. So, looks like Al Merrimon is going to take over that 12th position. And he has made a nice move up after getting sent back to around 22nd.
Not too far behind them, Gup Douglas running in P14. Making some inroads right now to Connor Swain. Gup going a little too deep into the braking zone there. And your leader, David Poel, out front. Looks like he's coming up on the back of Sergio Calderon. Going to put him a lap down. Your top 4 again, or really your top 5, are pretty well spaced out, and Rich Roman, John Wathen, Mike Trussler in a 3-way battle again for that P6.
Boy, looks like Chris Moses has made some other type of mistake out there. So Ian Jolicoeur, Jonathan Cuppett both getting through now. Chris Moses back to 11th.
So P's 6, 7, and 8, they're just kind of freight training it around, and I guess Rich Roman's bearing the brunt of the workload because he's having to pull these guys around behind him.
I tell you, Ken, I did not expect to see these types of close battles going on this deep into this event. I'm really impressed with these guys hanging around each other as much as they have.
Yes, sir. You're not kidding. But, boy, I got to tell you, it's got to be tons of fun for them. I mean, let's face it. We do this for fun and enjoyment. And what better way to spend your 90 minutes of racing if not in a heated battle for position? Oh, as John Wathen gets a little squirrely there, and Mike Trussler turning on the lights, letting him know, yo, hey, I'm right next to you. It looks like they touched a little bit.
Yeah, pretty well managed there by both guys. Really clean action after that Wathen mistake. But Wathen, whoa!
Oh, Wathen takes it off again. Looks
And
like
I think he got a little distracted there. Got out of it, got the focus off a little bit there, Ken. And that is the first mistake we've seen John Wathen make this whole race.
Man, you stole those words right out of my mouth. I was just about to say it looked
Sorry,
like
Ken.
a lack of focus or a moment. You know, he had a moment there, boy. I tell you. So now Mike Trussler inherits the 7th spot, and Rich Roman will chug along in 6th. Trussler going to look to close that gap quickly and get into a battle with Rich Roman. John Wathen, with his work cut out for him now, going to have to try and close that gap to Mike Trussler, who's currently running P7.
I'm kind of taking a look through some of the times here, Ken. You know, I happened upon Aaron Parsons. Looks like Aaron Parsons has picked up a couple of track cuts as well. So I think Aaron is going to have to be a little careful himself over the remainder of this event. Picked up one early and then one right after his pit stop.
Perhaps a little aggressive driving through one of the corners. Just picked up a very close battle between Jonathan Cuppet and Ian Jolicoeur. Looks like Cuppet might have a bit of pace on Ian Jolicoeur as they just kind of chug along through the circuit. And that battle is for P9.
Yeah, that battle is for P9.
Oh, and Jonathan Cuppet backs out of the attempt to go on the inside at the Sunset Bend. Jolicoeur a little widened off the line.
I was watching a battle a bit further back, Mike Greatrex, Connor Swain, and Gup Douglas. So Connor Swain and Gup Douglas, I think, might have had a little bit of contact going into Sunset Bend, slowed up, and Mike Greatrex got past both of them for 13th. Wow, and quickly it is Al Merrimon through teammate Chris Moses. So Chris Moses well and truly off the pace, and he is going to let Al Merrimon go ahead and have the track and see what he can do here over the remaining laps.
Yeah, I just caught that as you were mentioning it. So we did get to see just after the pass that Al Merriman inherited that 11th spot. So looking over at the timing and scoring real quick, Al Merriman running in 11th, about 5 seconds back from Jonathan Cuppet, certainly with enough time to close that gap. All Al's got to do is just keep it clean, consistent, and tight, and we could see another great battle for an additional position ensue within the next few laps here. So David Poel running out front. He's got a 17-second lead, almost 18-second lead over your second place runner, Marty Uren. And John Luden now having closed the gap to Marty Uren down to about 2.5 seconds. Aaron Parsons running in 4th, about 10 seconds back of Luden. And then John Houston about 18 seconds back from Aaron Parsons.
Yeah, so beginning to get spread out just a little bit toward the front. And I've been taking a look at that John Luden-Marty Uren gap. It has been coming down, so John Luden now in that McLaren, the only driver into the 53s consistently here, and again, picking up a little bit of pace after those stops, but he did run into some pretty serious rear tire issues, and I think Marty Uren may be playing it just a tiny bit conservative here, looking to save a little bit after the troubles he got in at the rear end as well. Now, uh-oh. Who'd we lose?
I don't know, but we did lose somebody. I heard that.
Well, it looks like...
I think Alex White may have disconnected.
Ah. Okay.
So, back on board P3, John Luden. Yeah, he's certainly closing the gap fairly quickly to Marty Uren. Now, I know that Marty Uren is a bit of a strategist when it comes to his racing. So, is he luring John Luden in close to force some tire wear and perhaps hold out for a little something at the end here, or I just don't know.
Yeah, I wouldn't think so, Ken. I think John Luden is just pushing as hard as he can. I think Marty Uren probably is trying to be a little bit more careful on his tires. He did seem to struggle a little bit more than John Luden did, though John Luden did give up more ground to Marty Uren, gave up more pace rather towards the end of that first stint. But this temperature does continue to climb just a little bit, so 104 degrees on track now. And so it's always a tough choice, you know. Do you push and give those tires up a little bit, or do you save? I guess we're going to find out which one's going to work here, Ken.
Yeah, you're not kidding, boy. 104 degrees. That's I would hope that these drivers, even when they were at the 101 degree, may have made a choice to switch some tires out and maybe put some hards on the rears in hopes of getting a little bit of extra tire life for their second stint.
You know, that's a very good point, Ken. I hadn't thought about that. You're absolutely right. A lot of these guys may have started on those medium rears, particularly in these mid-engine cars. A swap over to the hards will pay big dividends, no doubt.
So Marty Uren, having gotten around Sergio Calderon, doesn't look like it slowed him down, because I see that the gap opened just a little bit between Luden and Uren. And it's quickly closing again.
Yeah, and while you watch that battle, I'll give you an update on another one going on. So it is Scup Douglas has reeled in Mike Greetrex now, so they are fighting over the 13th spot, and Al Marimon does continue to close now on 10th place Jonathan Cuppet.
Yeah, no surprise there, and you know, you called it, Brad, when we saw that Al Merriman got around teammate Chris Moses conceding the spot, and perhaps advising his teammate, see what you can do. Your car's obviously faster. Go and get some valuable team points.
Yeah, really a pretty dismal effort for Chris Moses, it has to be said. I don't think Chris put in much time toward this event in practice time. May not have had the time to do so. So, not saying one way or the other on that. It just happens sometimes. But Al Marimon, certainly the quicker of the PMR drivers.
Still a battle raging for P6. Mike Trussler, Rich Roman. Just kind of cycling through the field. John Wathen in the 8th position, and teammate Ian Jolicoeur in 9th. And we're catching up with that battle now that you were talking about, Brad, with Al Merriman and Jonathan Cuppet for P10.
Yeah, that is a good battle. And you know, you just mentioned, I kind of lost the track of Ian Jolicoeur for a while.
Al Merriman just kind of sails by Cuppet. Don't know what happened there.
Yeah, I saw that position change on timing and scoring, so kind of canceled my thought. I'll get back to it quickly as we do see Al Miramon go through. So Ian Jolicoeur and John Wathen now 8th and 9th. Well, that is very good for their team hopes here now. And Cam Racing, of course, 3rd in that team classification. They will pick up points as they run on not only Precision Motor Racing, but a bit on T-Brock Dam Bam.
Yeah, and it's worth a mention here that we did see Al Merriman go by Jonathan Cuppett for that pass quite easily, I might say. However, on board with Al Merriman, currently running 10th and not too far off in the distance, is Ian Jolicoeur. So he's closing even the gap to Ian at this point.
You know, I suspected that this would happen. Al Miramon obviously had good pace. He put in a great qualifying effort. I know he has gotten plenty of practice in for this track. The Panos is good with the temperature going. He's going to have a tire advantage. Everything was falling right for Al. It's just that he got unlucky on the start. So really, so far, drive of the night has to go to Al Miramon for me after having that accident early on and now running back in the top 10. I think he's going to get Ian Jolicoeur here by the end of this race, if not before.
Yeah, I have to agree. He did get the short end of the stick on that first lap fiasco that happened, but boy, I got to tell you, Al putting in a great run here.
Well, I got to thinking about all that, and then I look up on timing and scoring. John Luden has gotten past Marty Urin for that second spot, Ken.
Yeah, sorry that we missed that, folks. So, yeah, John Luden getting by for that second spot, and we were on board earlier as John Luden was closing that gap. Seems that he closed it faster than we had anticipated, so John Luden inheriting P2.
Boy, and quickly, Mike Trussler is really having a legitimate go now on Rich Roman. He's as close as he has been.
Boy, Marty Uren not wanting John Luden to get too far away. It looks like the gap just kind of flip-flops. Oh, Marty Uren with a big slide. But it looks like the gaps just kind of flip-flop a few tenths of a second around every corner. But that big slide is going to cost Marty Uren some time now.
Well, I tell you, if I'm John Luden at this point, it's as soon as you make the pass, you just want to get out to a comfortable gap, maybe give it a second or so, and just try to hold a manageable pace. Just hold that gap and don't do anything to to upset that car or the tires at this point.
Yeah, and I got to tell you, I'm looking ahead to Luden from the back of Marty Uren's car, and Marty starting to slide that saline quite a bit, and they're not that far off from when they pitted. So I'm not exactly sure what's going on with Marty's car, but does not look like he may have taken a tire change or a compound change from his previous setup, because we saw this same behavior being exhibited in the beginning of the first stint where he started sliding early.
Yeah, well, I can tell you he did take tires. Now, as to whether he changed compounds or not, I don't know about that, but I can tell you he did take tires. Now, John Luden did suffer some tire degradation himself that first stint, just came a little later than Marty Uren, so we'll see if that happens again.
Yep.
Right, is Mike Trussler now making the move on Rich Roman?
Yeah, so we're on board. Whoa. Oh! Rich Roman with a bit of a slide.
Yeah, Mike Trussler had that pass completed for about 1/10 of a second there, Ken.
Yep, and not too far behind them. John Wathen still trying to play catch-up after having spun it because Wathen was very much a part of this battle. But it looks like Roman sliding the rear end of that Aston Martin around some of these corners as well. Great battle going on for P6.
There is, and still good battles going on throughout the track as well. I should make mention of one over 14th. Connor Swain, Dan Wilkerson, whom we have not mentioned much tonight really, and Gup Douglas fighting over some of the lower point orders there in 14th.
Mike Trussler giving it his best effort, trying to get around Rich Roman, but Rich Roman with the pace, even as he slides through some of these corners, just taking the fast line away from Mr. Trussler. And boy, a worthy mention here, Brad, that this battle for P6 has now turned into or is shaping up to be a battle for P5, because just ahead of these two is John Houston, and they've closed the gap to John Houston quickly here.
Yeah, John Houston's bumper has grown larger and larger through Rich Roman's windscreen, that's for sure, as the laps have continued to circulate here, and you're absolutely right. They are gaining some ground. I got to tell you, I think Rich Roman has been on the back foot for a lot of this race. I don't think he has quite had the pace of some of the guys around him, but he has done just a remarkable job there, holding on to just outside the top five, fighting for these top fives, and
a little case of monkey see, monkey do, as they are now side by side going down the back stretch into Sunset Bend with the advantage going to Roman, and it looks like Trussler will back out of it. Lost somebody.
Yeah, is nobody on track?
No, looks like John McIntyre may have dropped off. But yeah, we're watching this battle right now for P6 between Roman and Trussler. Now Roman upset the balance of his car a little bit by hitting that curb, and Trussler kind of gained a little bit of an advantage, but not to the point where he could put the pass on.
I tell you, it has been a heck of a run for Mike Trussler too. So I think we mentioned Mike last week, Ken, as a matter of fact, and his relative lack of experience to some of the other drivers in this field, one of them being former champion Rich Roman. A heck of a drive here by Mike Trussler, and showing some great consistency and pace. Got to be impressed.
Yeah, no doubt.
Wow. So, Ken, I have to direct your attention now to ninth, Al Marimon, Jonathan Cuppett, and John Wathen, all fighting nose to tail now over ninth. So Al Marimon has gotten through.
Ooh, Cuppett takes it off into the grass. And Al Marimon just chugging along. Boy, he's having a great run tonight, Brad.
Yeah, you know, that battle came together real quickly. I have to assume John Wathen must have made some mistake while Al was catching Ian or something, and brought that battle together all of a sudden. Whoa, as Ian Jolicourt nearly throws it off. Or John Wathen, excuse me.
Yeah, that gave a huge advantage to Al, who is now got his sights set on Ian Jolicoeur, who just came out of Sunset Bend, and Al Merriman about halfway through. So another great battle ensuing there. So we can flip-flop back and forth between 7th, 8th, and 9th, and 10th.
Yeah, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the battle over 14th. Connor Swain, Dan Wilkerson, Gup Douglas, and Bjorn Himmen all fighting tooth and nail too. And actually, Sergio Calderon's coming up to join the party as well.
Wow.
So still, hardly a driver out there not involved in some pressure for position, Ken.
Yeah, this is amazing, and like you, I'm a bit surprised that we have this much competition, this much battles going on this late in the race. And these are these are quite serious battles. I mean, Gup Douglas in the last points paying position with Dan Wilkerson right ahead of him, and oh, Dan Wilkerson going into the turn a little bit too early. Connor Swain in front of them, but it looks like Dan Wilkerson might have just a little bit of pace on Connor. They're going side by side now. Oh! And Hemmen gets into the, or was that Gup Douglas that got into the back of Dan Wilkerson?
Yeah, and our leader, David Poel, is coming up on this. Whoa, as Gup goes off.
Yep. Yes, he did. Unfortunately, we caught that. And David Poel now going by Gup Douglas. So now Mike Greatrix has slowly been making some inroads on Chris Moses for that 12th spot. We did mention earlier that Chris Moses has quite a considerable amount of aero damage to the front of his car, and no doubt that's causing his lap times to suffer greatly here, and is given opportunity now to Mike Greatrix to close the gap and enter into a battle with Chris Moses.
And I tell you, Ken, it's a rare day. I think Mike Greatrix can say that I'm closing in and trying to make the pass on Chris Moses here late in a race. So great stuff by Mike Greatrix. I'm pulling for him.
Yep, yep. As am I. Boy, I got to tell you, that's a great run by Mike. So, go ahead. Whoa, John Wathen takes it sideways. I'm sorry, go ahead, Brad.
I was just going to give a quick update here. Now, John Luden is making some inroads into David Poel. Now, he has picked up 4 or 5 seconds here over the last 5 or 6 laps. And while that gap is still 15 seconds, I know David Poel is coming up on some lap traffic. And I don't think it's going to make a difference here toward the end, but John Luden continuing to be on a charge and fastest driver on track at the moment by a pretty substantial margin.
Yeah, no doubt. We did switch to the timing and scoring and took a look at that very same thing.
And I did have one more quick news and notes here. Mike Trussler actually did make some type of little mistake. I didn't see it, but has slipped off the back of Rich Roman's bumper. So that fight has become unhinged here at the moment. Mike Trussler now about 5 seconds off of Rich Roman.
So Al Merriman in P9 in 9th spot continues to slowly reel in Ian Jolicoeur. Don't know if he's going to have enough time to actually get a real close battle going with Ian for position here, but he just keeps plugging away at that gap that Ian had over Al Merriman, and well, I just don't know. We got about 3 laps left to go.
Yeah, we're quickly winding down here, aren't we? And it doesn't look like Rich Roman is gaining much ground now on John Houston. We saw him maybe beginning to gain a little ground. We have that Mike Greetrex looking for Chris Moses here late. And still that battle rages over 14th, but other than that, things settled at the moment, Ken.
Yep, and I just quickly jumped up on with David Poel, our leader, just to see where more or less he is. And like you said, he's coming up on some lap traffic that seems to be in that heated battle. That's Heyman, Wilkerson, and Connor Swain. And I think we're going to join that battle.
That gap has just come under 12 seconds from David Poel to John Luden, and you know what? This could cost David Poel quite a bit of time.
Boy, Bjorn Heyman took it off track right before David, so David gets a break there and gets through as Dan Wilkerson and Connor Swain are trading paint side by side through some of these corners. And Dan Wilkerson now going to put the pass, and Connor Swain is... boy, he's got an answer. And David Poel right behind them, but I think it's perhaps a little too late. I don't think that Luden might have enough time to get up there and catch David Poel.
Yeah, and in fact, for these last couple laps, it'd probably be better for David Poel, and I think he is. He's just hanging off of this battle to ensure that he doesn't come to some bad end if these guys have a fracas of their own.
Yeah, yep, and they continue to trade paint as they swap, they flip-flop back and forth. Oh, Connor Swain having to check up a little bit there.
And as you watch that battle, another couple guys who might be trading paint soon are Al Merrimon and Ian Jolicoeur. They have come together. Al Merrimon right on the back of Ian.
So we've switched to that battle now with Al Merriman now actually getting some pull from Ian Jolicoeur, and Ian Jolicoeur having to slow it way down into the Sunset Bend corner, giving Al Merriman an opportunity to close the gap even more. So with, I think, this might be the last, no, we still have 2 laps to go.
I cannot be more impressed with Al's drive here after the pit stops. He has really put his head down and put on a charge. I think Al is driving a little bit with the red mist here in the second stint.
Yeah, you're not kidding. He's certainly shown that he's a man on a mission tonight, fighting for those valuable team points again. You know, trying to close that team championship. Oh, lights up the tires just a little bit and giving that advantage back to Ian Jolicoeur. They're going to have another go at it here.
Oh, Ian Jolicoeur, a very tough pass in the best circumstances. And I tell you, that Panos will be suffering a power disadvantage to that Aston Martin.
Now with about 1.5 laps left to go, Jonathan Cuppet not too far behind this battle. So Al Merriman again, close enough to get some draft pull off of Ian Jolicoeur's car, and it looks like the advantage goes to the Panos as they go into Sunset, but Al pulling out of it just a little bit as Ian Jolicoeur takes it wide. So Ian Jolicoeur, no doubt, feeling the pressure, and Al sensing the frustration of trying to get his car around that Aston Martin.
Well, if you're going to take a chance, this is the time. So we could be working our very last lap here, Ken. Is Al going to do something desperate?
Whoa. Whoa. He's going to try the over-under. What a great battle. And Ian Jolicoeur just not giving it up to Al. He's just not going to give it away. Like you stated, Brad, a tough pass Ian Jolicoeur is.
David Poel has crossed the stripe.
Al sliding that panos just a little bit, and here comes Cuppet right behind them. Al, no doubt, sensing that frustration. He knows he's only got about 4 or 5 corners left in which to try and make this pass on Jolicoeur. Oh, huge slide by Al is going to give Jolicoeur the advantage.
Mike Trussler's out of fuel. Oh!
And just crosses the line. Unbelievable.
It looks like Ian and Al both got classified ahead of Mike Trussler, Ken.
Wow. Yeah, it certainly does look. Wow. Mike, where's Trussler drop already? Because I don't see him on there. Oh, there he is, 9th. Yeah, so it looks like Ian and Jolicoeur get by Mike Trussler.
And you know what? Mike Greatrex got by Chris Moses right at the end as well.
Wow, so here comes Dan Wilkerson, Connor Swain, Bjorn Heyman is already in the pits, and Sergio Calderon, our last running car. He's on the back straight right now.
Yeah, I think he has crossed the stripe. Sergio Calderon will finish, I believe, in 17th place.
Yeah, so that's going to do it for the race here at Sebring tonight. Boy, I got to tell you, this was one heck of a race. I truly enjoyed this very much. I think I'm going to go and grab David Poel and bring him up here with us so we can have a quick interview with him. David Poel, Ken and Brad in the broadcast booth. Congratulations on your win.
Hey, thanks, guys.
Dominating performance tonight. This is becoming a regularity around here. What's going on with you lately?
Well, yeah, I appreciate you saying that. I don't know if that's true or not, but the car just suits me just perfect. I mean, it's my favorite car to drive, and it's, you know, when you're not thinking about what the car is doing, it just matches exactly what you want it to do all the time. It makes it a lot easier to concentrate on driving and stuff. So that's a big part of it, just being really comfortable in this car.
Well,
I was surprised though. I didn't think this was going to be a great track for me either. I've won the 3 races that I didn't think the car would be particularly great at. So I was actually looking forward to next week, but now it's going to be a little more trouble with the weight. But you got to take anytime you can get a win in this league, it's glad to have it.
Well, it was a hell of a challenge tonight on this track, with the temperatures elevated a little bit too. As you know, this track is very difficult to be consistent on, David, and I could not help but just be amazed by some of your lap times and the consistency of those lap times there in that first stint. So everybody else seemed to be struggling with a lot of tire degradation, a lot of heat, but yet you ran solid 54s throughout, and I'm wondering just how much you were focusing on that consistency versus overall speed.
Well, that was it. That I was lucky. I didn't see what happened to Marty, but he had a little off or something, so I got enough of a gap there after I don't know what lap it was, 5 or 6 laps, that I was able just to drive in my comfort zone. That was just what I knew was a pretty quick lap, but still something I could do over and over. And I knew I could do low 54s fairly consistently, and the car was really good all the way through the stint. Even in the later stages after 15 laps, I could still do about the same. So, but I was just able to drive it, never with a lot of pressure. It makes it a lot easier when we don't have somebody breathing down your throat and you're not looking back all the time. So that just able to hit my marks and just try and keep as focused as I could.
Yeah, certainly good stuff, David. And again, congratulations on another dominating win. Boy, you need to share your secrets with everybody else. But no, you certainly said it. You certainly said it here. How things went for you during the races, and it's a good thing to see that you are starting to get your wins back on. Because if memory serves me right, there were several seasons where you had some tough times trying to sew a good season together. So certainly good to see you back on top there and winning again, David.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, for a while there, they did get a little thin. So there's 3 wins this season. I'm pretty excited about that. Wish you wouldn't had some disconnects and some other problems that was self-induced that took me out of the championship fight. But again, I just couldn't be happier about getting a win. Anytime you can win in this league is it's something I'm pretty proud of.
Yeah, absolutely. And we wanted to thank you for taking the time to come and talk to us for a few minutes. So, your winner, David Poel, everybody. Again, wonderful, dominating performance for Brad Maris. I'm Ken Rodriguez, and we want to thank you for joining us, everybody. Have a good night.
Good night, guys.